At the limits of scientific understanding. I first saw it at the screening the BBC organised to launch the series. I was there because my father was recovering from a first heart attack and was determined this should be kept out of the public eye. It is in this programme that Bruno deals with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In his concluding statement about the bomb, Bruno quoted a physicist who worked on it, his close friend, Leo Szilard.
I had not been long back from Hiroshima when I heard someone say, in Szilard's presence, that it was the tragedy of scientists that their discoveries were used for destruction. Szilard replied, as he, more than anyone else, had the right to reply, that it was not the tragedy of scientists, it is the tragedy of mankind.
Then the film cuts immediately to Auschwitz and the machinery of mass murder. Here Bruno made a speech that seems passionately to contradict the overall thrust of the Ascent of Man series. He warns that science gives humanity awesome powers, and it is essential that mankind does not misuse them.
It's said that science will dehumanize people and turn them into numbers. That's false, tragically false. Look for yourself. This is the concentration camp and crematorium at Auschwitz. This is where people were turned into numbers. Into this pond were flushed the ashes of some 4 million people. And that was not done by gas. It was done by arrogance. It was done by dogma. It was done by ignorance. When people believe that they have absolute knowledge with no test in reality, this is how they behave. This is what men do when they aspire to the knowledge of gods. Science is a very human form of knowledge. Science is a tribute to what we can know, although we are fallible. In the end, the words were said by Oliver Cromwell. I beseech you, in the bowels of Christ, think it possible you may be mistaken. I owe it as a scientist to my friend Leo Szilard. I owe it as a human being to the many members of my family who died here, to stand here as a survivor and a witness. We have to cure ourselves of the itch for absolute knowledge and power. We have to close the distance between the push-button order and the human act. We have to touch.
That bit is completely unbearable to me. He bends to grab the mud from the pond, except that it isn't mud, it's human ash. That, however many, 3 minutes, is a miracle of capturing somebody's inner angst, Jacob Bronowski's inner angst. I feel sure that if I can connect Bruno's anguish at Auschwitz with his wartime research, in which science was used to kill people, I will reach a deeper understanding of my father's complicated attitude towards science. And that is why I'm back where the mystery began, in California. I'm in Los Angeles to visit a Hollywood film director, Mick Jackson. I've discovered that he began his career at the BBC and was behind the camera when Bruno was in front of it at Auschwitz.
I'd recognise that knock anyway.
Mick, hi. So, Mick, I've come to see you because you actually filmed The Ascent of Man with my father. Could you tell me a bit about what the whole process was like? Was it a big team effort, or did he lead it? Did he drive it?
His ideas drove it and drove us.
Were you awed by him at all?
Of course, everybody was awed by him. The whole crew was awed by him. We loved him. We called him Prof.
Let's talk about the program that I really have to tell you I profoundly admire that you actually made in The Ascent of Man, in which my father is in Auschwitz and the program ends with a slow motion sequence of his lifting
Human ashes. Out of a pond.
Did he balk at all at going?
He didn't want to go. He was very uneasy about going, and I can understand why. It hadn't been tidied up, didn't have kind of wheelchair access and guide rails. You walked in and you saw these mountains of shoes and suitcases and false teeth and spectacles and things. And then you saw the gas ovens. I mean, it's rusty, but probably still serviceable, the crematoria. And this pond at the back, in which, for want of somewhere else better, they had flushed the ashes from the crematorium. You couldn't help but be affected by it. And I know the day that we wanted to film, Bruno walked alone around it and saw the same things that I had. But he had to be aware of the fact that he had this reputation of being the man who always had something to say. And he says that that's when the quote from Oliver Cromwell came into his head.
I beseech you in the bowels.
I beseech you, and the way he says, in the bowels of Christ, it makes me cry every time I see it. And I was there, and it's 30 years ago.
Think it possible that you are maybe mistaken. Do you know what? It feels like a message in a bottle to me.
Yeah, that sense was with us all.
I beseech you in the bowels of Christ, think it possible you may be mistaken.
I wonder if Mick can help me understand how Auschwitz and the dropping of the atomic bomb were connected in Bruno's mind.
Do you think it's possible that at Nagasaki and at Hiroshima he had an emotional epiphany, a sense of remorse that wasn't just about dropping the bomb, but retroactively about the work he'd done on the strategic bombing? It's impossible to deny part of your knowledge of the world when you're confronted by the physical evidence.
This is going to sound ridiculous, but remorse is the word that I haven't been finding for that Japan trip.
But do you think the remorse is in the Auschwitz scene? He doesn't refer to the bombing explicitly, I think, in that piece, but it seemed to all of us present that was a genuine expression of remorse, not just for Auschwitz, but for the part of the human psyche that could conceive of doing such things. You cannot but believe that they are linked in his head. You actually take the evidence of the burnt tissues and you use that as the kind of evidence for the emotional state that you should be in, the ethical state that you should be in as a result of these actions.
But it seems that at the end of his life he was reconsidering, revisiting emotions he had buried for so long. I regret I never took this chance to speak about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I wish I could talk to Bruno now about how he was formed by those wartime experiences, what they meant to him. Fortunately, someone else did, on television.
When in fact did you first become aware of this extraordinary mental capacity that you have?
It's one of those wife-beating questions.
As part of the launch campaign for the